be socially impactful rather than only economically being viable. Because classically, whenever you structure a bond, your only concern would be to get a good economic return out of it. But it is when it comes to social investment bonds, we are moving away from that. Now, crowdfunding again has the social modes as well, whereby the main considerations in some of the crowdfundings, when they structure it, would be to cater those unbankable population and finding them sources of financing that would be something which they could tolerate, which they could bear, and which would be something that is suitable for them, customized to them. So CSR, I don't think we need any type of definition or an introduction for that, because when it comes to tax exemptions, tax consideration to even bigger corporations, nowadays CSR plays an important role. So these terms are emerging because even there are political will and support to promote these terms within an economy through engagement of financial institutions as well to help the societies. Okay, so I hope you understood the point here again. The point here is that if you look at a textbook, it might say social finance is a recent phenomena. However, the truth is that it has been there for a very long time with us, but as a term, as a phrase, we might have started using it recently, but the actual act of doing it has been there, and we have been trying to achieve that from an immemorial time as well. Now, next is social economy and objective of social organizations. So have you heard of the term social economy? Anyone?
Not yet. Social economy.
Social economy is again something as a phrase which we heard that recently, but as something which it is not something which is new to us completely, but as a term we need to understand that is to comprehend whether this is something we know about or not. So what is social economy? The social economy refers to economic activities in terms of ownership or goals cannot be attributed clearly to the public or private sector. So it is in the middle of both. The general goal of SEOs is to balance the satisfaction of social and economic needs. The definition of the social economy adopted at the ILO's conference is the social economy. Africa's response to the global crisis acknowledges a range of institutional types that make up the social economy. Enterprises and organizations, in particular cooperatives, mutual benefit societies, associations, foundations, and social enterprises, which have the specific feature of producing goods, services, and knowledge while pursuing both economic and social aims and fostering solidarity. A double bottom line in common to the various organizations that make up the social economy. So I find it very interesting to understand what social economy is all about, because if you look at these definitions provided, you will find that it is something which is quite vague, in the sense like we don't know where does the social economy stands in a real economy. Because I mean, social economy is something which we can't really comprehend what it is unless we try to find the organizations within the economy that offers it. Otherwise, it is just something like water. There's no color. There's, I mean, nothing that is defined, that could define what it is all about, unless we put it into some kind of object. Like if you put water to a glass, you can see how much water is there and you can quantify it. But if you don't put it in such an object, you don't know how much you have. It's something like that. So therefore, what I'm trying to say here is that it depends from jurisdiction to jurisdiction whether there is a social economy or not in the economy. That is something which is very subjective, and to understand whether there is a social economy or not, you have to see different countries, how they treat different organizations that is operated within the economy. How each and every organization is treated would tell you whether there is a social economy in that particular country or not. So terms such as social economy, solidarity economy, and the third sector are often used interchangeably. In Latin America, the term solidarity economy is more commonly used, and in Anglo-Saxon countries, for example, the United Kingdom refer to it as third sector, while in the continental Europe, the common term used is social economy. So all these are synonymous. And the point here is that, again, the gist is that you need to understand that not in every jurisdiction we have the common features when it comes to social finance. Different countries, they have different treatments and even the names differ. So these are some of the examples of SOEs and their supply of fund. For the examples, I expect you to read it on your own, but we will go through the supply of funds. So when it comes to cooperatives, mutual societies, foundations, and social enterprises, and associations or voluntary organizations, their funding are quite limited. So when it comes to funding, either they get grants or they open for membership, and every member will pay a certain amount of a fee to be eligible to be in that society. So through that membership fee, something substantial could be done depending on the number of members and how much it is charged. And you could also go for debt financing or equity financing. And subsidies are given also for those types of SOEs. Soft loans is another type, and quasi-equity is also something which is very, I would say nowadays people don't prefer debt nor equity and they go for middle. So this has become a famous way of funding as well. Now, what is the need to have Islamic social finance? The most important reason is because Islamic commercial finance is inadequate to fulfill all segments of population. As I told you in the previous example, when you don't have a job and when you need money for consumption, can you go to a commercial financial institution and ask for a loan or a financing facility to relieve your situation? You can, but you won't be eligible, first of all. Secondly, even if you get it, it won't be a relief to you. It could become something worse than what you expected, and at the end you might lose everything you even have at the moment just because of taking a financing facility or a financing obligation from a financial institution. Therefore, it is not in all circumstances we can say that Islamic commercial finance will provide relief. Next is the Sharia contracts used or the terms used, and their objectives are different when it is used for non-profit purposes. For example, you will find the term Takaful in commercial financial institutions as well. But how we use Takaful in Islamic social finance as the Islamic social finance product is different from how we use it in a commercial sense. Institutionalization of Islamic social finance is important to reach out to those who are in need of it. So this simply means that today, if you want to get Zakat assistance, you can't go to a financial institution and say you are unable to pay debt because of COVID. Can you grant me a Zakat financing facility? In all the jurisdiction, you don't have this type of facilities given from an institution. Therefore, it is important that for a certain level, Islamic social finance is institutionalized, and it could be with convergence of it with the Islamic commercial institutions as well. Now, the big question is, can it be achieved via Maqasid Sharia? Obviously, Maqasid Sharia is a very broad concept, and Maqasid Sharia can be defined as anything that gives us benefit and anything that eliminates harm. As such, I would say that Islamic social finance is something that would help us to achieve Maqasid Sharia in our economic activities as well, because it is not only the rich or who are affordable would have a status in the economy. We have to be mindful of those who are underprivileged as well. And Islamic social finance is all about providing justice and equity in an economy without forgetting about those who are in need. So here comes the big part, Islamic social finance instruments. The first thing you have to understand is that there is no exhaustive list. It is a developing area. You can bring any type of instrument and make it an Islamic social finance instrument by changing the objective of it. Therefore, don't assume that whatever I have mentioned in this slide is something which is exhaustive, meaning that that's not the only available options. This list could grow further. Okay, so number 1 is Zakat, 2 Sadaqat, 3 Waqf, 4 Takaful, 5 Qard Hasan, 6 Islamic Microfinance, and the final one is Sukuk. Okay, so is there anyone who did not hear about these terminologies before? I'm sure we all are very familiar about these terminologies. Somewhere we have heard about that, and sometimes we have also engaged in giving to the society through these instruments. Am I right?
Yes.
For example, Zakat. Obviously, those who are eligible as a Muslim would have engaged in this type of activity. Sadaqat, again, this is something common in the Muslim societies, because if you want reward, we have to engage in such activities. Waqf might be depending on the jurisdiction. Takaful, definitely we must have heard. Qard Hasan, definitely we know that Qard Hasan is a good thing, because whenever you give a loan, you have to give it without interest. So I might be incorrect assuming that not all of us are fortunate to engage in a Qard Hasan, because there are very less places, very little places where we can go for engagement in Qard Hasan. Islamic microfinance, obviously this is a term that has been used very much in the world today. Sukuk, normally people presume that it is for institutional investors, because for retail investors, it was like a recent phenomena that it was opened for the recent retail investors. So I guess this is the list is something which is not so hard to digest, because at some point of time we have heard it or we have been engaging in them.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ananda. I'm from Indonesia. I just want to ask a quick question. So, as we know, we all already know the benefit of all these Islamic social finance products, but as a basic human nature, humans will move if there are incentives, or else for the profit purposes. So what about Islamic social finance products that we can see dominated by non-profit purposes? I mean, speaking of how to boost Islamic social finance product among society is kind of difficult. Thanks.
So your question is, why would anybody want to give Islamic social finance products if they don't get a return, right? Or why would anybody invest in such a product if they are not eligible to get the return, isn't it? Am I right, Ananda?
Yes, of course.
Okay, very good question. That's why I said not all instruments, they don't give you a return, but there are instruments that will give you a return as well. Therefore, we can't presume that all Islamic social finance instruments are charitable in nature. Okay? So the answer is number one, as a Muslim, we always believe that there is falah in this world and hereafter, and we want we have a reward system whereby not all rewards are given in the world, but we have to expect some in the day of judgment as well, right? So when we have this type of a concept in our religion, there are people who believe in that, the reward in hereafter, and that motivates them to engage in Islamic social financial activities. And if you're talking about reward in the world, there are some jurisdictions in which they have made tax laws, tax exemptions are given to those who are engaged in some of the Islamic social, not Islamic, but social finance activities in general. For example, if they engage in CSR activities, they are given some kind of tax considerations as well. But this is something very subjective to the jurisdiction, so it is not something universal. But definitely what we know is that nowadays the trend is that the governments are trying to give leeways and some kind of incentive packages to those who engage in social financing activities. So that could be a motive. And the other thing which is difficult for us to do is quantify the social return. So as you know, there are many ways in which social returns are quantified. For example, some companies, if they are good in giving, they are given a certain rating or a status to acknowledge that this particular company is ethical or is good in doing this to the society. So they are given like a acknowledgement. And in some other instances, what they do is they just try to promote a, a particular cause and ensure that that cause, link the effect or the impact of that cause to a particular community and portray that in a form that we understand, either through a documentary or through some pictures, so that at least people understand what they have paid for and the social impact which they have brought. So I believe that in future, now even it has been developed, but the social return indexes will tell us the impact we are creating, and that impact could be a drive factor for us when it comes to this type of investments. So I hope that answered your question, Ananda.
Thank you very much. Really good answer.
Thank you. Now, for zakat, I wouldn't go that much into detail. Again, as you know, the zakat is one of the pillars of Islam. And everything, I presume that you know everything about zakat, and I'm sure you are having some sessions on this as well. So just let me give you the brief background of it. In zakat, we have two types of zakat, zakat fitr and zakatul mal. And when it comes to zakat, it's not everybody who will have to pay zakat. Those who are eligible will have to pay zakat, and it is done annually. Keeping those facts in your mind, we can go to the issues in zakat actually. So there are three processes involved in zakat. One is fund collection. The second process is fund disbursement. And between fund collection and fund disbursement, there is a middle ground where you have to park the money, where we call it putting the money in Baitul Mal or in Zakat fund. Okay, so when you keep the money in this particular fund at a provisional stage, what you have to do is you have to manage it properly. If you don't manage it properly, people would not have faith in your institution, and therefore you might not be able to collect zakat money as much as you have collected before. Therefore, the management of the zakat fund is very important. Now, the third part is the most important and difficult part as well, because as you know, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the 8 categories of recipients. And even though we know the 8 categories of recipients, to actually find them in our societies and giving them the money is the most difficult task of any organization who is dealing with zakat. So this is the last function and the most important function as well. The secondary functions taken by a zakat organization could include those functions like creating awareness about zakat and ensuring that the zakat collection and the management processes are made transparent. Everything related to governance is something which comes within that secondary activities as well, I would say. So when it comes to issues in zakat, obviously in all of these stages we do face difficulties. When it comes to fund collection issues, for example, let's say take COVID situation. So in the COVID situation, we understood that it is impossible for people to physically come and give zakat, and it is very difficult for even people who want to collect it, go to the households and do the collections. As a result, we had to do it in a socially distant manner, whereby we had to set up online collection points, or payment gateways had to be made possible for these purposes. And during the process, in some jurisdictions, the difficulties they faced was, even though zakat is a social phenomena, the financial institutions dealing with payment gateways and dealing with online transactions were unable to comprehend that this is something charitable, and they didn't want to give any leeway to the fees they charge for every transaction. So again, the cost of collection is increased because of this. And obviously we can always adjust it somehow, but because everybody says AML category is there, why not you just put it under that? But it's not that simple. So it is a difficult process when it comes to that. Another thing is making people aware that they have to pay zakat, and what are the zakatable assets and things are something we have to remind every year to those who are supposed to pay zakat, because sometimes people tend to forget, or they don't have that much knowledge to understand how it is calculated, especially when they have different class of assets. So in the process of collection, these are some of the things that we have to consider and do it. And during COVID, we understood that physically doing that was difficult, as well as there were no staffs in the offices handling the issues. And therefore, even making a phone call was at first a difficult task. So unless you have a AI-based chatbot or some kind of a calculator introduced, or you had an online website with all the information available, like how you find it in Indonesia, it would have been very easy, but not in all jurisdictions they were ready for that. So in fund collection stage, we do have these types of difficulties, and technology could be the answer for most of the difficulties we are facing. Now, have you heard of collecting zakat using cryptocurrency? So that is also something which is experimented. And another area which is experimented during the COVID, if you read the newspapers, what you saw was people were told that if you have invested in Bitcoins, you are supposed to even pay zakat for the Bitcoins you are holding as your savings, or as something you have collected over the years. So these types of things are always developing, and we have to be mindful of these situations. And especially during an unprecedented event, we have to be extra mindful to ensure that the funds the collection does not fall below what we require. However, you know that there's a deficit when it comes to this part as well, because according to IDB, if all the Muslims in the world pay zakat, the amount would be more than what we actually receive now. So meaning that we have a lot of work to do here to make people aware and to ensure that the funds are collected in a sustainable manner. Now, when it comes to fund management issues, again, unless and until you are very vigilant and you have all the list of the recipients, it would be impossible for you to disperse all the funds you receive during the yearly manner, or else there will be backlog in the zakat fund, and it might become again complicated from a Sharia perspective. The final one is fund disbursement issues. So this is the part where we have to be very mindful, because in Islamic social finance, we are advocating to give a helping hand through zakat to those who need it. But how do we give the helping hand to those who need it if we can't identify properly and verify properly who are these people who need a helping hand? So during the COVID situation, especially, the number of the poverty clock turned back, and the number of people who are experiencing poorness tripled actually. And we we didn't have a list that was ready made, and we were not prepared for that type of a situation. And as a result, up until now, most of the countries are struggling to update their list of poor people alone. Even the debtors who needed help is not properly identified, so that there is a glitch in giving the funds to those who are most the people who deserve it most are unidentified, and the process is something which we don't know how to do in most of the countries. As a result, the funds are there, but we don't know how to give those funds to those who are eligible to receive it. Therefore, again, this is something we have to be very mindful of. And I would say some of the criteria need to be revised and developed in the light of COVID-19 situation, and it should be made mandatory in the sense that you can't distribute zakat for the old poor list or old debtors list just because you are unable to do enough work to find data from your society on who are the eligible citizens in the society who should receive zakat in this particular circumstance. So sadaqat again is something which normally we give physically. We just go somewhere. For example, during the Friday prayer, everybody will go to Jumu'ah prayer, and then they will have a box where they put the money, and that's some of the sadaqahs they do weekly. Likewise, when you go out for shopping or anywhere on the road, if you find a poor, you just give. And normally these are the ways in which we, in a normal manner, give sadaqat. And again, this activity is kind of have become, we need a revolutionary change to this in most of the societies, because it's not in all the societies that use electronic platform to collect sadaqat. Therefore, there is need for us to revolutionize it, so that at least through social media, without doing any type of marketing activities that will involve more money, you can just do the promotion of sadaqat activities and try to collect funds. And during the COVID, in countries like UAE, we have seen this type of initiatives taken, and those initiatives were very successful. Using Facebook, Twitter, and social media, they have tried to gather sadaqat. So again, the issues when it comes to sadaqat is, unlike zakat, sadaqat is not something which is compulsory, so people pay if they want. So how do we convince people to pay it in a continuous, sustainable manner? How to reach out to those most deserved? Like zakat, we still have this problem, though we know that some people need it, but how do we holistically, strategically come up with a plan to find out who is the most eligible person to receive sadaqat in a particular year or in a particular season? So this is something we have to think about, how to have a good governance rules implemented. If you ask anyone, why are you giving money to a XX conventional trust as a charity, and why not to a Muslim charity? The simple answer they will give would be, if I give to a Muslim charity organization, I wouldn't know where the money goes. I don't know what happens to it. That and this particular family controls it, and I am not comfortable. So why do they say it? What they're trying to say actually is that there is no good governance systems followed in some of the Muslim charitable institutions. Therefore, they don't trust it. So due to this, we do understand that there is need to have a proper governance rules implemented by the charity organizations, so that like the conventional charity organizations, transparency and integrity would definitely bring a difference to the Muslim charity organizations as well. And that would also increase the supply. And I'm sure if the supply is increased, we can do wonders in our societies to help those who are in need. Now, next is what Ananda has asked just now: what incentives could we provide? For zakat, even though there is no incentive as such because it's a religious obligation, Muslims will have to do that, right? If we want reward in hereafter. But in case of sadaqat, we need more than that incentive we find in zakat, because when it's not compulsory, we need to find a really good motive to do that type of charitable activities. And one of the ways in which this could be done is through political will and support. So in some countries, what they do is that in their tax laws, again, they say that if you give sadaqat to an identified or registered institution, you will get certain tax exemptions. And because of these tax incentives given, people are encouraged to engage in sadaqat activities as well. So waqf has become very famous. Classically, we see about on the immovable waqf and idle waqf. We talk about that a lot. But nowadays, we see cash waqf. And because of the widespread of cash waqf, we think that we can do more activities when it comes to helping people using the money which we invest in the cash waqf, and the return could be utilized to any other purposes that we want in helping the poor. Now, in waqf, again, when it comes to immovable waqf, we are always at the issue of developing it. We don't know how to develop it. There are certain mechanisms that could be used, like sukuk could be used to develop the idle waqf lands. If you look at the Singapore case, whereby when they issued the sukuk musharaka to develop the waqf land, that taught us a very good lesson whereby we understood that definitely idle waqfs could be developed using even financial instruments that are used for profit purposes. And then when it comes to innovation, again for cash waqf, using of blockchain technology and other types of technological innovations have been talked about. For example, Fintera is one of the companies who use blockchain technology, and they try to innovate waqf. But when it comes to implementation, still we need to see the success of it more than what we see today. And there are many innovations when it comes to waqf, like zakat as well. But what we are lacking is not the theoretical innovations, but practical implementations of these innovations is something we have to work out more on. Otherwise, it's just in the books. In the books, we see it nice, but there isn't. It's like toothless tigers. We don't see any result. How to boost confidence of those interested? Again, for this, I would say that personally speaking, what we need is some kind of a political backing to boost the confidence of those who want to engage in waqf. Legal challenges, obviously, in almost all the countries, waqf is considered as a personal matter. It's in very selective countries that we have rules to regulate waqf at a level where we could call it as a Islamic social finance tool. So this is something we have to be very mindful of. Awareness challenge, obviously, even when it comes to zakat, though it's a pillar of Islam, we still face the awareness problem. Therefore, what would be the circumstance when it comes to waqf? Waqf is something which is recommended, and we still don't have Muslims who believe in the institutionalization of waqf. And in order to revive waqf in this era, definitely more awareness needs to be conducted. Management challenges like zakat, we do face some issues when it comes to management as well, because at the end of the day, good governance is what we require. And if we don't have governance to be followed, we tend to do a lot of mistakes, and that mistakes costs us some reputational risks. And as a result, overnight we can't change everything and boost the confidence of those stakeholders. So this is something again we have to be mindful of.
Sorry, Professor.
Yes, I'm just finishing. Yes.
I have a question regarding the wakaf. Now it's like the new innovation of wakaf is namely the temporary wakaf. But as we know, the wakaf have the must be irrevocable and perpetual. I just want to hear what is your opinion regarding this temporary wakaf. Thank you.
Okay, so temporary waqf problem is something which is starting from a long time. That is something we are faced with, because some people believe that in order to revive waqf, temporary waqf can play a vital role in it. But as you know, only one school allows it, the rest does not. So if you ask my view, what my belief is that waqf should be something which is permanent, and it should be something which should not be revocable as well. So those are two important conditions that must prevail in a waqf. So, but since some of the schools allow it, I guess there is no issue in that as long as you follow to that jurisprudence. Hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Sorry, I have a question, Prof.
Sure.
You mentioned about Zakat and technology. So
Yes.
recently I saw INCEIF established a Zakat tech. So this is by blockchain and Bitcoin, right? So what kind of Bitcoin or currency you are using for this Zakat tech, and then how you what is this regulation for blockchain implemented for Zakat tech? Because there are a lot of issues, regulation and Sharia perspective regarding Bitcoin cryptocurrency and blockchain regulation.
Yes. So that is an app, right, which is designed by one of the professors at INCEIF. So I don't know about what happened to it whether they were able to successfully launch it or not. But from the news, what I heard is that it's just an app which they developed using the blockchain-based technology. And I don't have any practical knowledge on what happened to that actual app. So I would not be in a position to tell you what exactly happened to it and whether it is in operation or not. But the last news I received is that they didn't launch it yet. And about the regulation of blockchain technology and other types of technology, you have to understand that there are certain institutions that will regulate such transactions, and therefore we have to abide to those laws. For example, in Malaysia, even though if you want to use cryptocurrency, we can't consider that as a legal tender to replace the fiat money we use, but we have to regulate it under SC's Securities Commission as a crypto asset. So those are the things that we should be mindful of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You're from Malaysia, right?
Yeah, I'm from IIU.
Okay, IIBF, right?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
doing about blockchain sukuk, my topic.
That's a very interesting topic.
Slowly, because I want to see the how progress in Malaysia and other country, the regulation and the IESWC Academy and other Islamic financial regulations views and Sharia scholar views on that aspect.
Yes. Inshallah, may Allah help you and make it
I
easy.
mean, thank you very much.
Okay, next we move to how much time is left?
You still have a plenty time, Professor.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so Takaful is, as you know, Islamic insurance, and we normally use this in our daily life today, depending on the jurisdiction again, because I can't make it so simple in some jurisdictions. Takaful is still at the developing stage. But again, when it comes to Takaful, what we need to understand is that the way how Takaful is structured as an Islamic social finance instrument is different from what they use in commercial context, because the premiums are not paid by the person who enjoys the benefit. It is paid on behalf of them by either the government or some other third party, you could say. So I could highlight that as the main difference. There are some minor other differences as well. So one of the examples which I provided here is Takaful and Karma scheme in Egypt, which is a scheme that is used to help the poor. And in Malaysia, we have MySalam, which is a national health protection scheme. During COVID, you will see that both of these schemes were amended in such a way that it would help those who are affected by COVID. And because it was changed in such a way, people who were under the poverty were able to get some kind of a relief using these two schemes as well. Next is Qard al-Hasan. So when it comes to Qard al-Hasan, we are talking about giving an interest-free loan. And when it comes to an interest-free loan, what you have to understand is that even though the loan is supposed to be returned, like a financial institution, they're not supposed to go after them and make their life miserable, even if they're unable to pay. Because in Sharia, if you're unable to pay a loan, you are supposed to give more time, or you are supposed to just waive it off. Now, these are some of the examples of the loans, interest-free loans, which were given by Ahuwat, which is a microfinance institution in Pakistan. Now, you might wonder why we are switching to microfinance suddenly. As you know, microfinance institutions, they use some kind of instruments to give their services, and one of the tools they use is Qard al-Hasan. That's why, to illustrate the practical side of Qard al-Hasan, I am using Akhawat. Okay, so if you see here, all of the loans, they are given for important personal purposes. For example, family enterprise loan, liberation loan, education loan, health loan, emergency loan, housing loan, marriage loan, silver loan. All these types of loans are given to uplift people's livelihood. And even if you look at the amount given, those are, you can see the USD side, loan range $100 to $300, which is very small, right? But this small amount could help a person who is in poverty. And that is the beauty of giving such a helping hand to them in time of needs. Now, if we talk about the problems faced by offering these types of facilities, again, the biggest hiccup would be on governance, and the next hiccup would be on finding shareholders or those who believe in the concept. As one of the participants have highlighted, if you don't have a motive or if you don't have an incentive, why would you give just your money to be given as a Qard al-Hasan, which might not be even returned by the person who's by the beneficiary. So Islam microfinance is again is very beautiful when it comes to portraying it as the Islamic social finance instrument. because at the end of the day, if you look at the success rate of Islamic microfinance institutions, you'll find that out of all the tools or the institutions or instruments which we have discussed, Islamic microfinance is the most quantified type of instrument that is utilized in different parts of the world to help the poor, and who are in the public domain for you to read it, because each and every success story of this tells us that when you do such a beautiful act of helping someone, it could do wonders. And it's not only like, they remain in poverty, but they could be empowered to become those who can afford to go to a commercial financial institution and seek financial facilities to make their livelihood better. Okay, next is sukuk. So in the sukuk, if you look at and sukuk has been used as a capital market instrument, and people believe that sukuk is for institutional investors rather than for the retail investors. However, these things started to change in the world. If you look at the developments that has taken place in Kenya, they have come up with the Emakiba bond, where using the mobile network, using a USSD code, retail investors can subscribe to a sukuk, and not a sukuk, sorry, to a conventional bond, and they could invest in that type of an instrument. So likewise, when it comes to sukuk, we have seen last year, world's first blockchain-based sukuk was issued by Blossom to facilitate the microfinance in Indonesia. And it actually showed that sukuk could be used as Islamic microfinance, plus something that could ensure that there is participation from the retail investors as well. So the whole mindset of sukuk being something which is big or untouchable has been changed because of these instruments. Okay. Now we are going to the most interesting part, challenges and opportunities. So what are the challenges and opportunities when it comes to Islamic social finance? The first challenge I would say would be, we are always working in isolation when it comes to Islamic social finance. We don't merge that with Islamic commercial finance. As a result, whenever a person is unable to pay debt, and when the person goes to the financial institution and asks for help, the financial institution is unable to help. They can only divert the person to a Zakat organization. But what if we merge these concepts in Islamic commercial financial institution and have a Zakat institution within themselves? So in some of the countries, they have done it, and in some of the countries, they're exploring this as well. So as a result, the moment a person is facing a difficulty when they are no more eligible to become an Islamic commercial customer, they could be diverted to Islamic social finance branch within the financial institution, and the person could get some kind of a helping hand from there. So I believe that merging Islamic commercial finance and Islamic social finance is something we have to explore, and this is something we have to be doing in future. Next is different instruments, institutions of Islamic social finance are developed in an ad hoc manner, detached from one another. Now, as I told you, when it comes to Islamic microfinance institution, of course, they have various types of instruments of Islamic social finance offered under one roof. However, if we talk about other instruments or other institutions, there is no coordination between them. One could be developed by one particular institution, and it can be regulated by one particular institution, and others could be just neglected without any institution taking the initiative to regulate it, nor having a particular law to regulate it. So as a result, what we find is that Islamic social finance is something which we want to develop as a proper term, but at the end, when it comes to the practice of it, the instruments in it are at different stages of development. So we need to find a way to harmonize it, coordinate it, and ensure that there are comprehensive legal frameworks for particularly for Islamic social finance instruments rather than specific instruments of Islamic social finance. So that would be great to see if we can have one particular regulation or a legislation only for Islamic social finance to govern the institutions to deal with the regulatory matters, substantive matters, as well as the procedural matters. Then it would be really good, because then we will know where we are looking at and where do we need to go from there to achieve the objectives we want to achieve. Next is, yes.
You have 10 minutes left to the presentation. I'm sorry for.
Yes, I thought so. Okay.
Thank you.
Next, a lack of governance framework required for ISF. So as I told you before, neither a regulatory framework is there to comprehensively deal with ISF. Rather, ad hoc regulations are there, which is not enough to do that. So in future, what we want to see is that if we were to develop ISF as a special branch, we need to have regulations and governance standards to deal with that. Maybe AOFI, IESWC, or any standard setting body could take an initiative for this and let the whole world knows that there is some sustainable manner rather than focusing on different parts of it. Next is remote use of technology. So obviously, COVID has taught us from one perspective, because if you were to develop financial instruments, future lies with technology, and we have to find ways to merge it with technology. And having said that, definitely we need to find ways to ensure that there are enough regulations in instruments with technology rather than killing them. So the existing regulations applicable to certain things might not work with the technology. Therefore, the regulatory authorities and the governments and other agencies who deals with these regulations need to relook at it and find ways to harmonize it. Otherwise, I think we won't be able to move ahead from here. The final one is challenges in balancing demand and supply side. So as you know, we're talking about funds, and funds will not automatically be coming towards us. We can say we have this particular fund, but we need to do work proactively to attract funds. So obviously demand will be there, but when it comes to supply, if we can't cater it, what would be the future of these financial instruments or the products we're talking about? So we need to balance it out, and we need to find alternative ways to ensure that there's enough supply to meet the demands. Okay. So these are the potential of creating an Islamic social capital market. This is just one example I wanted to show as an opportunity. So if you look at the social stock exchange in Brazil, you'll find it's a very interesting case study where they have created a platform to raise financing for social purposes, and this is something which we could replicate. So one of the idea which I proposed is to have an Islamic social capital market where we could say Waqf coin could be one of the universal instruments that could be used there. So as a result, for example, ABC company, if they want to raise some kind of Islamic social finance, money for Islamic social finance project, they could raise it using this type of instrument, and these are some of the articles to cover that. Okay, so is having engaged in Islamic social finance leads automatically to achieve maqasid al-sharia? This is a question that I just throw at you. Maybe you can deliberate on this and have your own answer. So these are the two review questions we have. Can VBI, value-based intermediation, initiative converge Islamic social finance with Islamic financial institutions? Is it possible? What is the relationship between circular economy and Islamic social finance? As you know, circular economy says that we should not waste our resources, and there is the Islamic social circular economy as well. And all of the answers and what could be achieved and what we should work for is given in the subsequent slides. So I hope you can read it later on and you will get the answer for these two questions. So due to the time constraint, I guess I will stop here. Thank you very much for your active participation. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for the organizer for giving me the opportunity to be here today, sharing this knowledge with you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So thank you very much, Professor Aishath Muneeza. What you have conveyed really truly gives us a fresh insights about Islamic social finance. We are very fortunate to have listened to your presentation today. May Allah bless you. Ameen.
Thank you very much.
And since we still have around 3 minutes, maybe from the participants, is there any questions?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, please, just one person.
I think I have a question. I think it's a good afternoon from Indonesia. Prof. Aishath Muneeza.
Yes.
Yes. I have a question with regarding to the current practice of zakat and in the crypto media, or is it already practiced in the market? So if I may have known the extent to which such practice maybe.
Yes, of zakat using cryptocurrency, right? As far as I know, practice some other India that they are exploring that option as well. Did you hear it? Hello? Did you hear what I said?
Yes, yes. Thank you for. I'm asking because.
Most
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay. May I ask a next question?
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir, but our time is limited.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much for the answer, Dr. Professor. Your answer was very insightful, and I think that's all for the Q&A session, madam. Unfortunately, our time is very limited to have all the questions answered, and I would like to ask you to stay on the screen as we have a small appreciation for you, and please accept it with our sincere thanks. So there will be a certificate for the speakers. Thank you so much. Once again, please give applause to our speakers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
But before we close our agenda today, is there anything else you would like to say, madam, about the assignment or maybe a closing statement?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm glad to be here today. And I hope that from whatever you have heard today from myself and the previous lecturer, you will be able to take Islamic finance to the next level and try to do your best in implementing whatever you are learning from us today, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first series of the lectures of our event have come to an end. We would like to express our gratitude to all of our distinguished lecturers, all of the participants about the assignments, pre-test and post-test. Please kindly check your account at the website ocw.ipb.ic.com using your username and password. So let's close our agenda today by saying Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. So thank you so much, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.